Hey PC gamers, and welcome back to the PC Gamer Chat Log. I am Lauren Morton, and I'm here with...
Hello, it's me, it's Molly.
I have realized recently that I always say your name for you. I'm like, why do I do that?
Yeah, and then I always go, hi everyone. So like you just really threw me off there. I was like,
I'm
oh my
so
god.
sorry.
I was like, what do I say? Hi, yes, it's me,
am
it's
I?
Molly, your co-host on this wonderful podcast. Hello.
Hi. I figured Molly needed more of a voice in the beginning. I like steamroll over you. So anyway, I'm going to continue doing that now that I've let you say your name. This week, you and I are going to be talking with our staff writer, Morgan Park, about battle royales, because Morgan has been on the podcast a couple times and always seems to be talking about like co-op, like fun party game type stuff. But Morgan is like one of our premier FPS people. And I was like, Morgan, at some point, I promise we will let you come and talk about the thing like you actually do most of. Fortunately, we now have that occasion. We wanted to catch up on sort of the state of battle royales because we're at like a moment of transition for the battle royale genre, right?
Yeah, for
like,
sure.
Yeah, the like extraction format is starting to show up in more places. Battle royales themselves are like adding extraction. So yeah, we wanted to bring in Morgan and get him his assessment of the current landscape of this like subgenre this that has it was really like a breakout, and we will talk about that some with him, how it just sort of came out of nowhere and now it's so established and it's facing the reality of needing to adapt yet again or just fall by the wayside while something else breaks out sort of from its ashes. So yeah, lots of battle royale games of the past, present, and future question mark to talk about. But before that, Molly, what did you do last week?
Yeah, not a lot. I wasn't here. The magic of doing this podcast means that it's never very obvious when we're gone. But I was gone last week. I was away celebrating my birthday. I turned 28. So I am very close to 30. Thank you. I'm very close to 30 at this point, which is slightly terrifying for me as a concept. But so I didn't do a whole lot, honestly. I like hit up some arcades, as of course
The
is
usual?
yeah, the usual, it's my birthday, so I was like, I want to do things that I like. And fighting games too, I played a little bit of Tekken 7. I'm off to France next month for a Tekken 7 tournament.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so I'm trying to get like a tiny bit of practice in here and there. I don't actually have the game installed at the minute because I had like a moment with myself and I uninstalled the game. So
this wasn't just because all the big games came out and you needed room for a minute.
No, I was just mad. I was just mad at the game and I was like, I don't want to play with you anymore. I had a rage quit moment. So the extent of my playing Tekken 7 comes purely through playing on other people's systems right now. So I did a little bit of that. And I played some board games too.
Oh, yeah.
Did you know there's a Dead by Daylight board game?
That seems like a piece of information I knew at one point for about 24 hours and then proceeded to forget. Yeah.
Well, I have never played Dead by Daylight, the video game, but I played Dead by Daylight, the board game, at a friend's house, and he's got like the collector's edition as well. So it has so many like 3D printed models of stuff. Like you've got like the hook, and your little like survivors have a hole in their back, so you can like put them on the hook. Like it's actually really cool. It was so much fun. And it made me want to play the video game. I've never played the actual video game, but
now's a good time for it. It is that month. Also, I think people play it just like constantly. People play so much Dead by Daylight, truthfully.
It is spooky month, so maybe now's the best time to get into it. So yeah, like not a lot of time at home, but still managing to play games of various types here and there while I was out and about. So yeah, that was what I got up to on my wonderful week off. How about you, Lauren? What did you get up to last week?
Well, I've been here, and truthfully, I've kind of been snacking. I feel like snacking on games. I installed Assassin's Creed Mirage because I do enjoy some stealth, and I never did the big open world Assassin Creeds from like Odyssey onwards,
Yeah.
basically. And I like the stealth bits. So I was like, okay, I should install this and I should try playing it. And I did get through like, I don't know, the first hour or two. I got through like the prologue and into the part where he goes off to train with the Assassin Brotherhood and whatnot. And I am liking it so far. I haven't put in like a lot of time, clearly, but I do want to continue just nibbling at that, I think, which is how I played Hitman 3 also. I wrote about at one point the fact that I started Hitman 3 like years late, and I played it in the obsessive fashion of like, I need to do one level and then get like all of the achievements that I possibly can
Mm-hmm.
for that level before I move on. And like some people, I feel like I maybe a bunch of people relate to that because everybody was like, that's how you're meant to play. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I still haven't played the last two levels of the game because I do not move on to the next one until I am done, finished,
Mm-hmm.
put it in a box on the shelf with each of the levels. So anyway, we'll see how that translates to going back to a proper stealth Assassin's Creed. And then, as we know, I've been dabbling in Sky Children of the Light, the like
Yes.
Journey alike online live service game. They've just rolled over to a new season, so I'm going and collecting my little candles and like looking at all the outfits I want to get this season. And then I loaded up and updated Palia to check out
Oh,
what they're doing for their first like Halloween season, and um, they added a new romance with the miner guy who has a daughter. He's like
yes.
single dad Hodari. Apparently, everybody was thirsty for Hodari, so I guess his romance just got added, and people are quite excited about that. Um, the only weird thing about the like autumn event for them is they have decorated with like pumpkins. There's pumpkins everywhere and like piles of like orange leaves everywhere. Very nice. But if you remember, Palia doesn't have seasons in the like
Mm-hmm.
Earth sense. I think that might be something they're thinking about in the future. I think that might be true. Don't hold me to that or them because I'm speaking off the top of my head. But it is like a life sim game like you and I play. Usually they have seasons. I think that might be on the table at some point. Anyway, it doesn't currently. So the world is very green. There's many green trees and then pumpkins and piles of orange leaves. I'm like, where'd the orange leaves come from? From whence could they have possibly
Yeah,
come? Off
not off the green trees.
not off these green trees. So it's cute. It's a little, it's very much still in early access, which we know, but enjoying hopping back into that for a minute to see what's going on. So yeah, that's I've just been snacking on games for the
Mm.
past week, and we'll see what sort of takes me uh, entirely next. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. So now we can go grab Morgan, our FPS man of the hour, and talk about battle royales, extraction games, all the shooting type stuff, the things that like Molly and I only get into sometimes, but
Occasionally.
occasionally, and we'll get into that as well. So we'll take a short break, and we will bring Morgan back. Okay, Morgan. So I did promise you that at some point we were going to get you on here and let you talk about FPS games instead of continuing to talk about like party games and co-op games, because this is also definitely your area. We wanted to talk about the big giant size of battle royale games kind of in our lives starting around like 2016 or something like that, and then just like really blew up into like the Fortnite territory. But before we get into like a bunch of examples and where we think we're going, I guess like for either you or Molly, whoever wants to go first, where did you guys actually start with things that then became battle royales, like the genre that it later became?
Yeah, I can start. I first battle royale I played was just this Armor 3 mod that just sounded like the coolest thing when I heard it. It was like, well, it was basically Battlegrounds because it was literally made by the guy who made PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Mm-hmm.
This modder named PlayerUnknown had this Armor 3 mod out there that just like it sounded like something that wasn't really possible, like having 100 people or something like that, just sort of like drop in to Armor 3's island and go at it. And I played that for like a couple months here and there. I didn't really have a PC that could run it very well, but like all the bones of Battle Royale as we know it were there, except I'm not sure it was as focused on looting at the time.
Mm-hmm.
but like, yeah, dropping in from a plane, um, choosing like your hot zone and all that stuff was like it worked remarkably similarly to how PUBG would eventually feel, and even like H1Z1. But yeah, and that was probably 2015 or 14 that I was playing that. So yeah, there was like I remember when PUBG came around, everyone was like, you know, this is a completely new thing. But I was like, yeah, guys, we do remember that Arma 3 mod, right? It was like, no one remembers Arma 3 mod. No one was really modding Arma 3 in our circles. That's a really pretty niche thing. But it was obviously a great idea because it took off. Molly, what was your first experience?
Ah, I think like actually playing, it must have been playing PUBG on my then boyfriend's PC because he was like super into it. It was like it was like the peak of like Rust and PUBG, and it was just those two games in a constant rotation. So I remember I ended up playing like a little bit of PUBG on his PC, and I thought it was okay, but I'm not very good at shooters. I never really kept with it, and also I feel like the advent of like battle royales kind of came along at a time where I did not have a PC. Like I had a PC when I was a kid, and then I had a PC as an adult now. But when I was sort of in my teenage years and I was a child of divorce, I this is the excuse I always use. I was a child of divorce, and the constant like ferrying
Mhm.
between like each house every week, I would like split my week in half. And it was so much easier to just take like a PS2 or a PS3 between two houses than it was to take like a PC. So for a long time I didn't have a PC, and it was around when battle royales were really coming in. But I did watch a butt ton of Minecraft Hunger Games on YouTube when I was a kid, which I guess like was sort of one of the things that really brought the battle royale style of game kind of like didn't invent it, but it certainly helped shape what the genre would become. And I watched a lot of that as a kid. That took up like a lot of my time, and I definitely feel like like my points. I had a point with the PC thing. I feel like a lot of these battle royales were born from like you say, Morgan, like modding scenes, like the Minecraft Hunger Game stuff. That was like a custom server on PC,
Yep.
like the Arma 3 mod. I feel like so much of this battle royale stuff, how it got started was through modding and PC stuff and all that cool stuff that you just didn't get on console. So I kind of like missed its inception.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really does feel like a PC gaming, you know, product, a
Hmm.
product of people getting to actually modify their games and try new things. I'm like completely unfamiliar with Minecraft Hunger Games. I've heard the name, uh, but I have no idea what that game mode entailed compared to like a traditional battle royale.
Yeah, so that's the angle that I came at it from. Like the other weird, unexpected precursor was, yeah, Minecraft Hunger Games, which, as you say, Morgan, so Hunger Games definitely had the looting aspect to it because
Hmm.
you would drop into an arena with, I feel like it was like 60 people usually on, as you say, Molly, a modded server. Like some of the really big ones like Mineplex or Hypixel or whatever would have Hunger Games rooms, and you would like go loot the chest at the center, and then you would run off and like go loot other areas to get like good armor and like healing items, and then you would fight people. It truly was like a battle royale right before H1Z1 came around, and that was the next one I did, and then on to PUBG pretty much. But yeah, that was it was like you said, Morgan. Uh, People thought that like H1 or whatever else invented this, and you were like, I watched this coming. Like I saw the train coming for the last like however many months or like a couple years even potentially, because like, oh yeah, suddenly here's this other thing. And like you, Molly, I've never been a big FPS person. I'm not like, I mean, I played a lot of Halo 3 in like high school, but like I'm not gonna pretend like I've ever been particularly like effective at FPS games. But something
Hmm.
about H1 and then like soon after PUBG just totally took me, like it took over our friend group heavily. Like I've talked to the two of you about how like that's how I got my partner into like actually building his first gaming PC was so he could play PUBG with the rest of us, because his PC, like yours, Morgan, did not run it very well initially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So are you saying you saying you did play H1Z1?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's that came before PUBG. It came after the mod, but it was
Yes.
like the first to market, basically traditional battle royale game, and it was popular. I remember even before PUBG came out, I saw like a news story about there even being like a televised H1Z1 tournament.
Yes. So
Um,
the first year of TwitchCon, they did an H1Z1 tournament. I had a friend who played in it. Like, we went to TwitchCon and he was in this
Oh.
tournament to play against like other big FPS people. Yeah, it was like really big, and then PUBG just kind of like came in and stomped it. I would like 12 months later, less than that potentially.
yeah, and that's fascinating because like for all intents and purposes, it was a pretty good game, H1Z1, and it was reasonably popular. Uh, but then PUBG came out, and so that was just the one that everyone chose to actually get into battle royales with, and like H1Z1 like basically never recovered. Like it kind of like only got less popular after that, and while all the other battle royales took off, and I wonder if they're salty about that.
Almost certainly.
I would be, yeah.
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 There's been like a clear trajectory too of like the next big thing in battle royales, like starting in basically with H1Z1 and then PUBG, and then you get Fortnite relatively soon on its heels in like 2017, I think. And then I would say the next big thing after Fortnite wound up being like when Warzone went and did a battle
Yeah.
royale mode, wouldn't you say?
Apex was like
Oh,
1 year
hey,
before
Apex.
Warzone. Yeah.
Oh, it did. Yeah,
Hmm.
I forgot about that.
For some reason, Apex I always categorize in my head more as like some kind of hero shooter thing. Like, I put it beside Overwatch for whatever reason, and I know that's not
Mhm.
actually correct. Like, it is a battle royale, but it occupies a similar place in my brain.
But yeah, you're right. It's like these milestones of like you could chart battle royale by the games that have actually survived. Like H1Z1. I mean, technically it's still up, but the big ones are obviously PUBG and Apex and Warzone, Fortnite. Those are like
Yeah, I was gonna
Mhm.
say
the ones people are still interested in. Yeah.
Fortnite's still going very, very strong. Fortnite is like one of the first games that I distinctly recall like my friends going out of their way to get PCs for as
Really?
well. Like, yeah, I remember because I was at university
Mhm.
when Fortnite came out, or I was at least at university when like the Battle Royale mode came out, and I remember my friends using their loan, their like loan that they're supposed to live
Oh.
on for like 3 months, and they were just building PCs with that, and they were playing like Fortnite and League of Legends. But I remember Fortnite being like a big one
Yeah.
among my friend group. Like that really took off in such a big way, I think.
Do you think all these like big games that have, like, as you say, charted the progress of battle royales for the last 6+ years, do you think they've all like left a tangible mark on that genre and like brought something of their own to it? Like, you start with H1Z1 and then PUBG. I don't remember how distinct they were and if there was something about PUBG that like um made it like an addition, but then you certainly get to Fortnite and you have the build mode, and that really characterized Fortnite for a long time, until they did the no build mode, and like everybody came back to it for that, which is hilarious. And then Warzone, I'm not super sure what Warzone added on top of it, but Morgan, you may know better off the top of your head, like what made it so distinct from some of our other options when it came out.
Yeah. I don't think there's much to distinct H1Z1 and PUBG. Honestly, honestly,
Hmm.
H1Z1 it might have still had zombies at that point, which is kind of weird for one of these games.
It was
Because
like
because
more
that
like Rust or Daisy or whatever
yeah,
before they did the battle royale mode.
right. Because H1Z1 itself was really a Daisy era game, not really a
Yes.
battle royale, and they sort of like pivoted, which is smart. Um, but yeah, like PUBG, it it brought in like it really bridged normal FPS fans and like milsim fans because that game plays very similarly to Arma, but it
Mhm.
Hmm.
just is faster and has fewer controls to learn. Basically, like, but there's so much of that game that still feels like it was based on an Arma mod, despite running on Unreal. Like just how it's like animation priority. Like if you hit a vault, you're gonna watch your guy vault for like a solid 2 seconds, which is just a rule that nobody breaks in normal FPSs. And so yeah, it just like has a rhythm, and the vehicles are a big deal in that game. There's not really another FPS with good vehicles other than Warzone. Um, I guess Fortnite has them here and there. They're not really important, but they're like pretty crucial to PUBG. Um, but yeah, I would agree that like Fortnite was distinct for one being free at the time.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it's a pretty big deal. Like Fortnite literally, as most people know, was a wave-based zombie survival game where you built forts. That's why there's a build mode.
Yeah.
And there's stories out there about how they threw together battle royale in just a matter of months. It had only been a few months since the normal game launched.
Save the World, I think it was called, right?
Save the
Something like
World.
that.
Yeah, that's Save the World mode. And that cost like, $40-$50 or something. But like that was around the same time Fortnite was coming out. PUBG was also blowing up. And like it was only like 4 months after that they had a prototype of Battle Royale and Fortnite running. So they just released it as a free to play thing, just like let people try it out. And yeah, obviously that just became what Fortnite is. But like, yeah, the build mode, we could go on about Fortnite. Like they really revolutionized what like in-game events look like, what a service game is like supposed to deliver for years after that. And I still think even in no build, which is the best way to play Fortnite if you ask me, just I don't I think the build mode is like obnoxious, and people making windows in front of you and then taking them away and shooting you is just I'll never get it. But like I think the best part of Fortnite is just that it battle royale is like it's just a thing you're doing while enjoying the map. Like it almost feels like a side activity to just seeing what the map has to offer, because there's just so many little side stuff. It's almost like a scavenger hunt game if you want to play it that way. And then you can get competitive with the shooting if you want. But like I do play with some friends here and there, and like I just get distracted. Like there's a city on that map right now that just has these rails going around the different buildings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like a ratchet and clank, rail system where you like hop between them. And I just got so distracted by just the fun of speeding up on those and hopping between rails that we spent like half the match sitting in the same place and just like, yeah, I think Fortnite's awesome for basically everything other than the actual battle royale part, because that part is just like whatever. But yeah, I don't want to keep going. But there's Apex, you're right. Like it is a hero shooter. It's a hero shooter combined with a battle royale. Like that is its innovation. It totally pulls that off, and you know, takes what people liked about Titanfall minus the the wall running, and did something totally new with it. And I think there was, I had some fear that was like going to be one of the first ones to die, because I was like, all right, now EA is getting into battle royale too. Like, how many of these are able to exist at once?
Yeah.
But yeah, it turns out like Apex like blew up in Japan of all places, and it's pretty big there now, and it's only gotten more popular here too. I just can't play that game. Like the what stands out to me about Apex is not actually the heroes, but just how hard the shooting is. Because it's the only battle royale that has crazy movement in first person. Like to fight in that game is to hop around, jump over people, try to get higher than them, and it is wild to try to keep up. I'm just not used to it. It like takes a lot of practice, and that's part of why I think Warzone is a great alternative to Apex if you want like an FPS battle royale, because you're basically just playing Call of Duty. There's mobility in terms of sprinting, but not really, jump pads or rails to grind or anything like that. Like it is pretty grounded, and I think the best thing Warzone really has going for it is that it plays like Call of Duty, which is just one of the smoothest shooters around, and like it really complements the COD ecosystem. If you're already embedded in like leveling up your account every year with a new game and stuff like that, like I think in general, Battle Royale is like, I don't know, maybe on the decline as far as popularity goes, but like if there's two games that I think are going to survive it all, it'll probably be Fortnite somehow and Warzone somehow, just because those are
Yeah.
like built on such sturdy foundations of doing the things other than just Battle Royale.
Now that you're saying all that, Morgan, it's making me think that PUBG is actually like the one or one of very few among that big set that did not pivot into battle royale. It
Mm.
landed and was just a battle royale. Everybody else, H1Z1, like you said, pivoted from that like zombies, like more Rust like Daisy like thing. Fortnite pivoted. Warzone was already Call of Duty. Like, um, yeah, it's very, and as you say, Molly, it's a very PC, very modded type of like game mode that just sort of like collectively, I don't know. I don't want to say grassroots because then yeah, you had Fortnite and Call of Duty and whoever else, EA getting into the game, but initially very like modded grassroots type thing that showed that it was really popular and it could be done. Like all of these people on one map, like until you get a final winner and like okay, it works. Now expand on it. And like as we're like looking into the teeth of like battle royales being on the decline, like you said, Morgan, like do we think that extraction is the next thing, or is that like is extraction part of the death throes of the battle royale, or is it the next thing in its own merit and the next like thing is totally separate?
Yeah, yeah. Just for people who don't know, like extraction shooters are an offshoot kind of Battle Royale.
Mm-hmm.
You put people on a map, usually around like 30 or 40, sometimes 100. And yeah, you can find each other and you can kill each other, but there's no circle that's sort of constricting the environment and forcing people into fights. And also, the winner isn't just the last person standing. These games usually have like um, asymmetrical goals. Like you can be there just to like find some good loot and then leave, or you can be there in case of some games to like kill the boss, take its bounty as like a reward, and then leave. Like your match can end in half the time as someone else's, and that's a success depending on what you came there to do. It's almost like instancing into these little MMO experiences. Where you're like joining an instance with other players that you might not have the same goal, but if you clash, you clash.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, like I've become a big fan of this format in the past couple of years. Really, just with one game, Hunt Showdown,
Mm-hmm.
the cowboy FPS. Um, I think it's currently the best implementation of that idea. And it's also one of the smallest. 12 players on a 1 kilometer map. It's really small stuff compared to PUBG or something like that. But like, it is so effective, and it really encourages, like, really challenges the concept of balance with its guns. Because like another thing about extraction shooters is that you buy your loadout before you even enter the match,
Mm-hmm.
using in-game currency, and so yeah, like if I go into a match with like a budget loadout because I didn't want to spend my Indian dollars for whatever reason, and I get like 1 kill, but I get totally clobbered by this guy that had like a much better gun. You know, I don't actually feel bad because I went into that match knowing that I was like on the back foot.
Yeah.
So it really plays with like what balance is for, and like, but it also balances guns in a way where like every gun is basically a one shot headshot. So you might have technically the worst gun against this guy, but if you're just the better shot, you can totally beat them. And then you can take their stuff, and then you've basically left the match with a profit of this much better gun than you had when you came in. So it's like, it often feels like a battle royale because once the fights actually start, they have very similar dynamics of like, wanting to start fights from good cover, not trying to get third partied by like a different group while you're trying to fight someone else. Like all these same concepts apply. But I think they're stronger when there isn't an element of randomness in what loot you find, because everyone comes in already geared up with what they want to fight with. And the circle, basically, like being the judge of who gets to have the favorable start to a fight by like, we're already in the circle. That's sweet. We just get to take this big hill and sit here against the people that have to, run straight into them. Like I think that randomness works for a lot of people, but it's kind of always frustrated me in those games when I actually want to take them seriously. So that is like the argument for extraction shooters as like the future of battle royales. And I don't think one's really going to replace the other overall, but I do think we've already seen games and studios that probably would have otherwise been making battle royales try extraction shooters instead. The other big one is Escape from Tarkov, and that that's, as Lauren mentioned, that's a game that just started as an extraction shooter. It's not, didn't pivot from anything. It's the model that a lot of these games are working from, and Tarkov is the reason why there's a mode in Warzone now called DMZ, which is what I've been describing. It is the battle royale map without a circle that closes. You can just enter the map with other players, fight them or don't, talk to them, proximity chat, squad up even, and just complete goals. And like, I don't have the numbers for Warzone, but like the way Activision talks about it, it's like very popular. Maybe probably not as popular as Battle Royale, but like has a real audience. And I just think that's like a fascinating maturation of Battle Royale. I think to a degree, like there should always be a casual version of this kind of games. I think extraction shooters are inherently more hardcore because you just have to put more thought into them before you even enter a match. And like Battle Royale, you just sort of like press play and it might be a great match, might not be.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what you guys think, how much experience you have with extraction shooters and stuff.
Mollie, I want to know what it would take to get you into one of these, whether it's an extraction shooter or just like back into a regular battle royale as we know it. Because I feel like the next big thing, like whatever is next, as Morgan is describing, is going to take, like as you're saying, like a more casual component, right? It has to be like approachable to a wide selection of people who don't normally consider themselves PvP FPS people. Like those are neither of those things are me, but I loved PUBG. Like even though I was not winning, I was having a great time. So like what do you think? Is it like a particular gameplay element, or is it a setting, or is it a combat type, Mollie, that like you feel like could get you into that? Because you're a competitive person. Like you do play competitively. It's just not these.
Yeah, so because I've never played an extraction shooter. I have seen my friends play Hunt Showdown plenty of times. I have, some of my like Final Fantasy guild mates are very into Hunt Showdown. That's like their like off game. Almost, it's like, okay, I don't want to play Final Fantasy anymore. I'm going to play Hunt Showdown, and that's what they end up playing. And yeah, the concept of like an extraction shooter scares me because, like you say, Morgan, that seems a lot more like it's a lot more like careful and thoughtful in how you approach it, right? Like you said, rather than just being able to be like, okay, I'm gonna drop in this area, pick up whatever's there, and hope for the best, kind of thing. And
yeah, there's a comfort in randomness too, right? It's
yeah,
like it's random, but that also partially means like if it goes totally badly, it's not all it's not completely my fault,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's random for like the other however many people end up in that lobby with you as well, right? So even though it's not fair, it is fair. I don't know. But I really enjoy watching extraction shooters. I think the thing with battle royales that sort of ended up putting me off, because I will admit I haven't played like a quote unquote traditional battle royale for a while now. I think the problem is because I'm not very good at FPS games, right? I'm not very good at shooters. I'm okay at them, but I'm by no means like great at them. I think my problem is like it's such a long setup for an encounter that can be over within seconds, right? Like you spend 5 minutes maybe like waiting for a match, getting into that match, dropping down into a location. You spend another few minutes like trying to get some resources, and you could be killed within like
Yeah.
30, like within like a minute of you dropping, and then you've got to repeat that process
Yeah.
all over again, right?
I will say, like, that's one thing I liked about Hunt Showdown, that I don't like about battle royales, because I do hate that matches can end very quickly. They can end that quickly in Hunt as well. The one difference is I hate looting. I really hate starting with no gun, and trying to find a good gun. And I think it takes too much time. And then like it can be right at the point in which I finally have the attachments I like and a gun that I like, that the match just suddenly ends, right? And like the one thing I'll say about Hunt is that at least you already have that part done by the time you enter the match.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of like have the firefight that you want, at least with the stuff you wanted. And then if it does end very suddenly, and it will, at least you can set that back up very quickly and just go into another one if you want, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like even with those, that convenience, it is an adjustment if you're used to more normal multiplayer games with like with reasonable session times. Like these are 30-minute matches that can be 15-minute matches, but can also be 5-minute matches. Like it is a whiplash often, and you just no game really prepares you for that. Like it's most games are like very very segmented. Like this is a 20-minute game every time, and that's good. You just have
Yeah.
to get used to that, I guess.
Definitely. I think it's something you have to be prepared for. And someone of my skill, I was not prepared. I was not prepared to be like diving in, kind of being like a deer in headlights, and then just immediately getting killed and being like, oh, okay, so now I go back and I do this all over again. And yeah, I think that was kind of, maybe I just didn't give it enough of a chance, right? Especially because I never went back to Fortnite. Was the one that I probably played the most out of all of the big ones, but I never went back when they did the no build mode. And a few of my friends have been getting back into it lately, and I feel like that as well, like seeing how fast people can build structures and like get height on you and get cover, and then you're just like out in the open with your pants down, basically like being invited to be shot at. So maybe I should go back and try the no build mode. But I will say I do really love like the non FPS battle royales that like Nintendo have been doing. Are you wanting to talk about this, Lauren?
No, go ahead, Molly. You're just answering a question before I can ask it of you. So go on, and then I'll ask you
Oh,
like another
fantastic.
related thing.
Yeah, I will say like non-traditional, because you know when we think of battle royale, it's a shooter, right? It's an FPS.
Mm-hmm.
But I really love Tetris 99. Tetris 99 is my favorite battle royale. I forget when that came out, but I remember when it was announced, I was like, this is the stupidest thing that I have like ever come across in my entire life. I'm like, this is a stupid idea. It's gonna suck. And then because it was free to play, so I downloaded it and I was like, this is so much fun. I'm just playing Tetris, but it almost kind of gave me a purpose to play it, I guess, because it was nice kind of going against a bunch of other people, and a game that I enjoyed very much already on its own. And I guess that's the thing, right? I don't always necessarily enjoy shooters, but being able to play a game that I already really enjoyed and then add a sort of competitive element into it, I really enjoyed that. So I
And you
kind of
basically
like the
play
weird one.
you play Tetris, and you can like see all these other people's games
Yeah.
playing out next to you, right? And you, if you do well, you're sort of like sending problems to other people's boards to like try to
Yeah.
get them out faster.
Mhm.
It is pretty ingenious. I never tried it because I'm a terrible Tetris player, but it is cool as hell.
It is
Yeah,
very, very good.
like along those lines, what I was thinking is like, as you and I have identified, Molly, like neither you or I are like particularly good FPS players. Morgan is like, Morgan comes from FPS games. Battle royales are like, have definitely started as FPS games. They don't need to be. That's just sort
Yeah.
of like where they were birthed. So what I was going to ask you is, do you think like whatever you consider your home genre, and I'm thinking of fighting games because they're already competitive, but if you have a different one that you think would work better, but like, do you think it could exist as a battle royale if we got still like, we've passed the big like bell curve of battle royales, but we might be entering into like the weird niche things that can still be successful if they're like weird and interesting enough, a la Tetris 99, but like something else.
That's a good question. I genuinely don't know because I know they did Pac-Man 99, which is, if it hasn't already closed down, it is closing down very soon. And they did Super Mario Bros 35 as well, which was that like limited time.
I didn't even hear of
Um
Right.
these.
yeah,
Yeah.
so for the 35th anniversary, this was like in 2020, I think, like 2020 or 2021. For like the 35th anniversary of Mario, they did like a Super Mario Bros battle royale where it was just Super Mario Bros. But like in a battle royale format. So I do think maybe something like platformers or puzzle games. I think they do lend themselves very
Fall
well to being
Guys.
adapted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fall Guys is a battle royale of its own. That's more of like a round
Yeah, it
based
is a
elimination thing.
platforming. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah. Another one that stands out to me is like because I think you guys are right. Like, there's no reason non-shooters can be really awesome battle royale games, and it's already happened. Um, but I think branching out from shooters, which is like one of the most popular multiplayer
mhm.
genres,
Mhm.
um, is hard because if you're setting it up like a service game where like it can only exist if people are like engaging with it every single season all the time, like you start to see the cracks of like, okay, maybe there's not that many people that want to play Tetris 99 every single day. Or in the case of a game that I thought like was pretty cool and had potential, but just clearly didn't find an audience, like Rumbleverse, that shut down earlier this year.
Mm.
That was a very unique battle royale with a big, beautiful Fortnite-looking map, but no guns. It was a wrestling game. You had a very unique sort of fighting game combo system, and like your loot was basically finding moves that you could like upgrade throughout the match, and it had like really cool traversal, like very like cartoonish sort of parkour, just running straight up buildings and jumping between stuff. It was cool as hell, and it shut down in a matter of months just because it immediately didn't have that many players. And yeah, that stands out to me as like, this totally deserves to exist, obviously, because it was well made and actually innovative.
Yeah.
Um, but like, turns out games, multiplayer games, don't get to be huge right now unless they're a MOBA or a shooter, or one of the big ones.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking about like my own home genre of like which is not even a genre, it's a setting or a style, but sword and sorcery RPG type stuff. And that's Dark and Darker has been that, right? Like it's not an FPS, it's magic and swords and like closer to something like chivalry nearly, right? But in battle royale, or well, extraction format really is what Darker and Darker is. That one's not a fight to the winner, it's a get out with the loot that you can situation. But I was thinking of that, and so like that concept certainly can work. I hope it continues to work. We'll see. They've been having a rough year clearly. And then what was the other I was thinking of? Oh, Path of Exile. Speaking of a different style of RPG, Path of Exile did one season where they did a battle royale mode. I don't remember how it went over. I never tried it. I don't know if it's still ongoing. Frankly, I know nothing other than that it definitely happened at one point. But I'm thinking to myself, man, like, I don't know that I really trust Blizzard to do it with Diablo, but I kind of hope that Path of Exile 2, maybe they like mess around in that territory again, because that, like, you said the word MOBA, Morgan, and that's sort of what it reminds me of. Like, League is it's not the same type of game, but it's the same speed and the same like type of interaction style in a PvP format already that something like a Path of Exile battle royale would wind up being. It involves like
Yeah,
head down, lots of clicking, skill bar kind of thing. Like it shares some elements, kind of like it could freaking work too
absolutely. Yeah,
if they really wanted to potentially. And Path of Exile is free. You got the install base there.
that's right. Yeah, another one that stands out to me is like a battle royale that shouldn't work, but absolutely does. I think it might come up when we talked about party games.
Mm-hmm.
GeoGuessr. GeoGuessr has a battle royale mode.
Oh
Oh
Um,
yeah.
it's a like they'll throw 100 players, and it's basically like a process of elimination trivia almost, except you're playing GeoGuessr, so it's just who's best at GeoGuessr, and you just get eliminated if you're bad. Um, but it totally works. You'd like see people locked in their answers, which makes you wonder, like, oh crap, should I have recognized this immediately? Am I stupid? Like, is this clearly Norway, and I just don't play this game enough? Or, and then like you just eliminated, and the locations get harder over time, and yeah, there's a one winner, and you can like watch it play out, even if you get eliminated, and that's kind of fun too. So like people, this is not a crazy concept. It is playing a game with a lot of people at once, which is exciting, and that can be implemented in so many ways.
Yeah. I forgot about GeoGuessr. I think you are right though, Morgan. Like ultimately, like shooters are just so popular on their own anyway, right? And I feel like, you look at Fortnite versus Tetris 99, just as a comparison, Fortnite, you're teaming up with your friends, and shooters are they're not the easiest games to become good at, but they're very easy to just be like, oh, okay, I shoot and I run around, right? And you could play on your own or you could play with friends. Whereas I feel like, something like Tetris 99, when you're adapting something like that into a battle royale format, it's a very like singular experience, right? You're not really playing with friends, you're playing on your own. And I think that is one of the appeals of a battle royale as well, is playing with your friends and like teaming up.
Yeah,
And I know
yeah,
our former video editor Graham, he plays Apex on his own, which
Mm.
is crazy, quite frankly. Like he will do duos, but he will queue up on his own, I think. And I don't know how he does that, because I think half the fun of that is being able to be with your buddies.
I think you're right. You kind of touched on something that's unique to battle royale and extraction shooters, in that like they are very social games, and to a lot of people, um, something that might be annoying to some, which is like the long gaps between encounters, and like the parts where you're just sort of like running to the next circle or running to the compound where the boss is. Like these are boring moments, except if you're with the right people, they're not. They're like the moments where you guys are just shooting the shit
That's
and
the hangout
talking
time.
about your day. Yeah, and like it can be fun to be in the middle of a completely unrelated conversation, and then just a fight breaks out, and you're just telling everyone to shut up, shut up, shut up. We need to
Four to
do
the
this
north, four to the
now.
north.
Yeah, exactly. Like they end up being these social games. It's almost like you're the greatest parts of getting really into an MMO, in a much more like truncated format and different kind of game, and it's really cool.
Yeah, that is, the social aspect is huge. You're so right, because that's what my friends and I did when PUBG got huge. Was yeah, you're just hanging out during the looting parts, where like yeah, you loot 5 different areas and like you're trading ammo or whatever, but also just kind of talking about other stuff until you finally get into your firefight and they're like, you didn't win, but let's drop into another one. Um, have there been any like uh battle royales that have gone under or failed or just like not stuck around that you really wish had made more of an impression on a larger group of people?
Yeah, I think Rumbleverse I mentioned, like that definitely deserved to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a lot of these, like you sort of feel guilty, as you're like,
I didn't play
oh, this
them.
was this was so cool, but like I didn't play them. Like
Yeah.
it is something I think about a lot. I've written about before. Like this multiplayer games should be allowed to just be games that you play sometimes. Um, like there's nothing wrong
Yeah.
with having a game that you played for 20 hours online, and you're like, all right, I got my fill. Um, but like the way games are made now to be services, like
They have to
It's
survive. They have to keep players.
yeah, it's bad, frankly, for like a lot of types of games. It's just not compatible with this system. Where like the dodgeball game that I like, not a battle royale, sorry, but it's like the dodgeball game, the wrestling game. These are games that like
Oh, Knockout
clear
City, yeah.
clearly like it was never going to be a game that someone that like millions of people put hundreds of hours into. It's not Apex, right? It's like a game you can get 40 great hours out of online or something like that, and then maybe play again next year for a bit. Like that that used to be a game, a successful game, but now it's one that was successful for a bit and then died. So like
Mm-hmm.
there's something broken here with how these games are like sort of ideated from the start, right? Because you end up with a large graveyard of games that if they had been set up differently, or like everything didn't have to be a service game, might have just like made some money if they were sold for like $40, and when interest died out, they just go make another game,
Mm-hmm.
like. But yeah, like even the Battlefield 1 Firestorm mode, I think that was a pretty strong early battle royale mode that did inspire some good ideas, like Warzone's armor system, where you put in ballistic
Mm-hmm.
plates. It's like a very big part of that game is
Played out.
ripped straight from that Battlefield mode. That didn't really survive. Uh, Lauren or any other Fallout knower, did this Fallout 76 mode ever actually come out? Remember when they announced Battle Royale for Fallout 76?
I had an acquaintance who played a lot of it, in fact. And it seemed reasonably popular. Like, I never played any of it because I'm not great at FPSs. I do enjoy Fallout. Fallout is not a great FPS. So I just felt like a bad mix of things, frankly. Like, it was just never going to work for me. But I think it was reasonably popular, and I did know people who enjoyed it. And that it did eventually get shut down. I don't remember when that happened, but it was around for like a couple years. Morgan, didn't you enjoy the Vampire the Masquerade one? Didn't you play
Yeah,
that?
I mean that's another one where I played it for like a week, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is pretty good, and then apparently it wasn't good enough to play more than a week.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like that's a third person battle royale, which there weren't a ton of those coming out anymore. It's but it was like a big dense city, had a cool vibe. You could like find vampire powers throughout the game. Like the shooting was actually pretty darn good. Um, and like and it looked amazing. It looked like a very high budget game compared to other games, and it just sort of tanked after its first couple months. And yeah, like that definitely deserves to exist in some form. Like even if multiplayer games like that like clearly don't have an audience to like have hundreds of people online 24/7. Um, these games need to learn how to die, basically, right? Like a game like this should have servers that like players can start up their own. Like it should have real server support for its
Mm-hmm.
post death, if you even want to call it that. But really, we just need to like redefine or find the old definition of what a dead game is, because yeah, like battle royale is currently the epicenter of games that are dying that shouldn't be. Um, and I'd love to see that change, because yeah, there's a big graveyard of cool games here that we've listed out, like Spellbreak. Do you guys play Spellbreak? That was like a
Yeah. I
really cool
never touched
spell shooter.
Spellbreak.
Yeah,
And I should have. I wanted
Yeah, me
Spellbreak to
too.
exist. Yeah, Morgan,
yeah,
what you're talking about is something I've thought about a lot recently because of the like I've been asking for stranger MMOs and like more like sideways experiences, like offshoots of MMOs. And the problem is, as you say, you can't get the install base, they can't live on forever. Or not just that they can't live on forever, but not at the scale that they are like designed for. It's like there needs to be a drawdown plan. If like, you're not going to be WoW, so you need to figure out how you're going to survive at a size that's like sustainable, smaller than WoW, because it's not going to be what you are. And I think some are figuring out how to do that, but it's like a painful process for like a genre to go through, and for like a bunch of developers separately to all kind of go through and like muddle through
yeah.
separately. It like, yeah, Spellbreak I didn't play, and then what was the other one I was thinking of? Oh, Ring of Elysium. I don't know if
Mm.
anybody played Ring of Elysium. It was like in the Fortnite territory, but it was like all snowy, and I like a snowy environment. It had
Ooh.
lots of zip lines on it as well.
Was there
There
also
was a
like
lot like
snowboards?
Yeah, like
That was
it was
pretty
kind of
cool.
cool. The traversal was cool on that one. I don't remember if the particulars of the shooting was actually any good. Like if it like held a candle to Call of Duty, I don't know that it did, but like the traversal stuff was really neat on it. And I was like, and I looked it up. I think it's shutting down like this December. Like they just recently
Oh
announced they were
man,
shutting down this December. I was like, oh, bummer. I didn't play it really, even though I thought it was cool. So yeah, as you say, Morgan.
it's a big list. You know, Ubisoft did its big effort with Hyperscape,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
and its biggest claim to fame there was just having a big, dense urban environment where like most of the gameplay was on rooftops. That totally bombed. I mean, that one isn't one that I wish was still around, as I think that one was kind of mediocre and was never was even at its height didn't really offer anything better than like Apex. So like it was kind of the same thing. Um, but yeah, like I'm glad Tetris 99 is still kicking. I'm not surprised Pac-Man 99 didn't. You know, like just trying to apply that same format to other classic games that, you know, one like Pac-Man that's not as competitive or replayable,
Mm-hmm.
frankly. Like not surprising there. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think battle royales like shaked out like a lot of genres do, where like everyone jumps on it, everyone tries to make their mark on it, and it turns out there's room for like four or five really successful ones
Hmm.
to
Yeah,
stick around.
I think what I had meant to ask sort of at the end of this conversation was like, is extraction like the only way forward? But clearly we've identified it's not like it's not the only way forward. We're just waiting to find out what like the next big thing is. But like I guess for either of you, what do you want next from games like this? Whether it's battle royales like purely or extraction stuff or like a different offshoot that would like get you invested in sticking around or trying them, or like in Mollie's case.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't really know. I think, about extraction. I think, like you said, Morgan, I think, you know, there I don't think one will end up beating out the other. I think the two serve very different purposes for
Mhm.
different audiences, right? I very much think that they're two kind of sides of the same coin. They can coexist. And I think that will continue. In terms of what I want from a battle royale, that's a very good question. Um, I guess I just want something like that I don't have to think too hard about, right? Like maybe I should try Fortnite again. I really think I should go back and try Fortnite's no build mode, because I think if I was to play a battle royale, I think like the Fortnite no build mode would be it. But I would like to see more like party game battle royales as well. I'd be totally down with something like
More
another
things
Fall
like Fall
Guys, but
Guys. Yeah.
I feel like that game is sort of holding on for dear life at the minute itself.
Yeah.
So who knows?
I think what I want from battle royale is basically just more experimentation. Like
Yeah.
I don't I think, you know, trying to whittle down, like being the last person standing is a fun goal to have. I just don't think the whole circle thing has ever really been good. Um, so like I think there's maybe some wiggle room to like try a blend of battle royale and distraction shooters, where like instead of forcing people to come together um, with a circle, you can just create these points of interest that naturally bring people together to fight, which would and with the ultimate goal of having one left,
Like
and
world
like
events, kind of
yeah,
like
exactly,
little events that occur.
right, like Hunt Showdown doesn't force you to go find anyone, but it does make its main goal these bosses that everyone goes for. So you end up
Mm.
fighting in the periphery of those points of interest. Um, and that works really well. So like, I also want battle royales to just experiment with smaller player counts. Like
Yeah.
99,
Yeah.
99 people on a map is exciting, but it's not always a good idea. Like first of all, it can just be unwieldy and like create too much randomness. You know, arguably, but like it's also just completely unsustainable for games that aren't the biggest. Like you don't want to end up in a spot where like you can't create a full game because there's only like a few hundred people playing. That's only four possible matches that can be going. So like, you know, Hunt Showdown has like a small fraction of the players of Warzone or Fortnite daily, but it you wouldn't really know it just launching it, because it only takes 12 players to make a
those
match
matches.
that's more like Call of Duty sized. But you still get all the same thrills of a battle royale. It's just on a smaller scale, and that's good. Creates shorter, more digestible matches, and I think Warzone and Apex and Fortnite, they've all just sort of sat still for years on this concept of having to have 100 players on a big map, and they should try out other stuff.
Yeah, I think for me it's going to be the chatting moments that you were talking about, Morgan, of like the thing that got me really into PUBG was, I mean, I enjoyed like the weird PvP stealth aspects of it. Like I really liked being a weird bush crawler who was like stealthing all the way to the end circle. But like truthfully, I really loved that like the group chat's logging on to play PUBG tonight. Like, and whether we're all playing solos or like a couple people, like someone's doing squads and someone else is not, like everybody can jump in kind of doing the same thing, and there's that space that it creates for like the intense moments of combat, but you have the downtime where you're still achieving a goal together and like working towards a thing, but you have the space for, for it to be the hangout game. It still has to provide that space and not be just like action 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 constantly. Yeah, I think that's what I need to keep seeing from them to like get really invested in one again, probably. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you both for coming and hashing out the battle royale history with me. I appreciate it. I do want to keep seeing like more of this stuff. We're just kind of see where it develops and what happens next. But yeah, thank you, Morgan, for being our expert on the subject, our enjoyer of many FPSs and battle royales.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to come on anytime.
Hey.